Mohit, first of all, a big round of applause. Outstanding,
Oh,
outstanding.
thanks.
It was really wonderful. I was just looking at the watch and it's 45, 50 minutes. So it's amazing. This time just flew. And what you spoke, I was listening to every word of it. For the first time in my life, I've never dozed off in a talk. So I think, and what stuck to me most was the 20% thing. So I wrote down a couple of things,
Yeah.
20% of things which give me joy. But the question to me is, how do you really find time for this 20% of things? And even in the lockdown, uh, we had so much time. I was hardly operating. I was not really doing what I was doing, working 16 hours a day in Jan and Feb. But yet, I couldn't give time to this 20% of things which I penned down, which is in front of me.
Right. Yeah. See, there you go. But Parag, I always say, when I look at this, right, is I say the following. There are, and I'll use a very simple example, everyone. I'll use a simple example because it's one we always feel, right? You're a very busy, successful clinician, and then you're said, I should do some research. And then you feel, okay, research is important. And what happens is research just gets put on the back burner. And then you simply say, I just don't have time, or I have to, manage my patients. But then I always say, but you would never walk in late to an OR. You never miss an OR, but you miss all your deadlines for research, wouldn't you? Your heart tells you what, if it's a priority, it'll be there. So therefore, on your 20%, don't lie to yourself and say research is important. It's not your 20%, because if it was, you'd make time for it. Now, if there are things that are on there and you feel this twang, revise your 20%, friends, because I looked at those 20% and I said, if I'm not doing this, it shouldn't be there. I should really be making an effort to do it. And it's hard because I had a much bigger list and I just kept weeding it down until I got to things I do. And I really do try to do it. I'm sharing this really as I consider 50 friends right now, my own life story. Now, whether it works or it doesn't, Parag, I don't know. But I'm curious what other people, have other people been feeling this? And I'm just curious if other people have used strategies that are similar. Yes. Okay. So I'll go to Pankaj.
Mohit.
Okay. Yeah.
Guru Reddy here.
Okay. Guru. Yeah.
Guru Reddy from Hyderabad.
Hi.
Mohit, yeah, wonderful talk. I just joined late, but I got your essence and a wonderful talk as usual. You inspire every one of us. And as you rightly said, the 20% is 80% for me most of the time. I enjoy what I do, and I get inspired by you. So I write, I do radio jockeying, I do all sort of stuff. But as I said, do what you love and love what you do.
Yeah.
As simple as.
But you see, guys, it's easy to say that, isn't it? Right? We can all say it, right? And when we're here, but then you close this thing, you go back to your day and you say, okay, when you look at that list, what am I going to do? And I'll tell you the other thing that's really helpful. I'm sure no one here has actually gone through the pain of trying to write a personal vision statement. I've been doing it because I said, I can't talk about this and not do it. It's really hard. It is very, very difficult. But you know what it helps me with personally? Anytime someone says to me, hey, do you want to get involved in this? And I say, the old me would say, yep, sure, I'll do it. And then, I'd say, well, why did I say yes to that? I don't want to do that. Right? Now I look at it and say, it's really not consistent with what I want to do, how I want to spend my time. So now you have the power in your mind to say, thank you, I'm honored, but unfortunately I will not be able to make that work. And it's been really helpful. It's been really helpful. Anyways, I'm curious, anyone else jump in, please. Yes, Pankaj.
A wonderful talk, and I really, really enjoyed it. So I believe our 20% is the real self of ourselves, which is waiting to be expressed, actually. Not many people can actually dig into that zone of their personality. You mentioned about the power of meditation or the alone time. You mentioned vision boards. You mentioned reading is very powerful. Writing a journal is, again, a very powerful thing to do. It reminded me a lot of Tony Robbins, Reid Hoffman, Thomas Edison, Pareto Principle. But let me ask you something. When we talk about creativity, I have struggled with it, that whenever I'm being more creative, I'm being less productive. So
See,
creativity is not equating to productivity. So your thoughts on it?
yeah, well, it's the opposite for me. So everyone said to me, like, you know, and by all means, friends, we're all busy. Like I'm busy, like I'm really busy. So when I was saying, okay, I'm going to take time and ride a bike, or I'm going to take time and paint a picture, or whatever it's going to be, an hour, you know, there were people around me saying, oh, well, I guess you're not going to be able to do research. You're not going to, your productivity is going to go down. Actually, the opposite, because the biggest challenge is, right? The biggest challenge is the following. Do you want to do things that are meaningful, or do you just want to be on what we call the hamster wheel and just putting out things? So yes, I was writing many, many papers. If I'm being truly honest with you, majority were low yield, just random small pieces, but there are lots of them. Since I've been able to think more and get away and reflect and talk to people around the world, part of this whole creativity mindset, the ideas I have are much bigger, they're bolder, and the impact of them is just bigger. And I feel much more aligned with the kind of impact I'd like to have in my life. So if you're going to spend time doing something, you have to find an outlet to have the ideas to do something worthwhile. Otherwise, what happens is we had this talk the other day with some surgeons from Brazil, where it's just simply saying, there's a point in your life where 8 years go by and you think, what am I doing? I'm doing the same thing over and over again. And so that, to me, was I got to shift that. I got to go from a good life to a great life, and a great life to an exceptional life. And it's going to come from thinking bigger, and you're going to have to do something different. And truthfully, time. You all have time. So if you tell me you don't have time, then you are lying to yourself. You are not prioritizing your time to do the things you like to do. That's different. But don't say you don't have time. We all have 24 hours in the day. We all have the same number of minutes in the day. So how come some people can do it and other people can't? And that's what I used to say to myself, because I used to always say, well, I don't have time. And people would say, no, sure you do, right? It's that kind of thing. I see some people sitting there like this thinking. So I'm curious what you're thinking.
Maybe I would jump in with, for those who don't know, I work with Mohit, and I've had the opportunity over the years to learn from him. And I sit here today learning again, and always find it inspiring and amazing. But I also find discussing things with you, Mo, scary, because you always find a way to take me out of my comfort zone. And having finished listening to you, I feel scared in a good way, because I know I have to sit and write this statement. And to be honest with you, I'm not a writer, but I realize that it will make me reflect and think about everything that I speak to. So thanks again for taking me out of my comfort zone and scaring me into doing something. But I only know it's going to make me grow. And I'm not just, to friends too, I'm not just saying this. I have the feeling that I've had, you know, after we met with you and Gordon years ago. You know which ones I'm talking about.
Yeah. But I'll tell you something. I would never be as arrogant to anybody. Maybe I was in a 40-year-old, but not the 50-year-old. You can't be arrogant enough to say you do something that I'm not prepared to do. So if you're feeling a pit in your stomach,
I am.
Assume that I felt that threefold, right, when I was doing it. So we've all been through it, but I can tell you I've been through it, and probably the best thing I ever did, right? So, you know, all these fives and things I put out there, I put in there as a way to remember things, right? Think is a way for me to remember, you know, what I want to keep doing. But the fundamentals are the same, right? We all try to do things. And the biggest fear for most of us, and for me too, was like, okay, I'm no longer the head of orthopedics at McMaster University. I gave that up at roughly 8 years, right? So then people say, well, what are you going to do next? I mean, what's your next thing? And it's okay. I'm just going to start over. We'll start over. And the thing is, if you just keep doing stuff that you like, and you have a vision that's strong, and you enjoy it, and you're telling stories, and whatever's consistent with whatever your things are, your 20%, since we're talking about 20%, doors will open. And I'm not even worried anymore about what doors. And if they don't open, I'm still going to have a very good life. I'm very happy. So, you know, in the extent that you can be, because you're at peace with whatever you're doing. I think that's been a really, you know, taken me 51 years to figure that out. I'd love to hear from anybody else. I know there's lots of people here who aren't on video, but come on video, friends. We have time.
So one question.
Yeah. Yeah. Go ahead, Hitesh. Yeah.
Yeah, Prof, excellent lecture. And I always felt that meeting people at different locations have the right impact. For example, I was really lucky to have met you at one of the national conferences. And then you gave me this idea of always going global. And I could do that when I met Prof. Joe Minge in Barcelona recently. And I could feel that how you can really make global connections. And actually, we hosted him for a live program. And that is how I understood that, okay, you need to think beyond and you should always think global. And like you say, cut through the noise and search for the signal.
Yeah, that's good. Excellent.
Hello, sir. I'm Dr. Ninad.
Hi.
So I just wanted to know, how long do you pursue a new idea?
That's funny. Not funny. I mean, I don't mean to. It's the point is, when you put yourself in the mindset of aloneness or whatever it takes for you to be innovative, and we use that word often too much, but do something that gets you out of your zone where you can have a point. Write it down, everything. If you believe in it and you believe strongly in it, you've got to get allies, depending on what level you're at, but allies and belief in it. And sometimes just take that risk. There's a difference between being risk averse and reckless. Reckless is you doing something crazy that, is going to put you in bankruptcy for sure. Don't do that, right? But think about what your risk level is. If you believe strongly, great things have happened when people have bet on themselves in life. Bad things have also happened when people have bet on themselves in life. So that's the thing that I wish I could tell you. You'll know in your heart when there's something that's powerful enough to pursue. For me, when I have an idea, I go to my trusted friends, and there's many of you here. Like I see you all here. I call you and I say, listen, what do you think of this? And if they tell me, Mo, no, you're missing this, you get advice. You have to have a team around you that is your coach team. And I use that all the time. And people think, well, how do you use it? Because you're helping other people. I might be on someone else's team, but I have my own team that I go to for advice. So that's what you do. That's what I do anyways.
So Ninad, if I can answer your question that how long, should you pursue an idea? I would say as long as it takes. If you are convinced that you're passionate about that idea, just go for it. That's what I've learned from Mohit. I've known him for 14, 15 years. And every time he comes to India, he goes back with the idea, and I see that idea is accomplished, whatever time it takes.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, Bandari. This is Jamal.
Oh, hi, Jamal. Yeah.
Hi, sorry. For great lecture as usual. And as everybody now, Robert Tresor here and Bandari being one of my idols since first year of my residency in McMaster University. I've been there the last 12 years. So, question is, I like a lot of things, but one thing that's sticking to my mind about changing from imaginary person to a creative person. As you said, I think a lot of people be stuck with this. Like, we have a lot of ideas, either in our, like in your clinical life, or actually a lot of, even in family life. But how you change, what's the way that you can do or help you change that imaginary thinking to actually to be any creative, to react on that and do it?
Well, okay, so
I say this, I'm sorry, for my own personal issues. I have a lot of ideas, but I stuck with, okay, what's my next step?
Right. So the following I'd say to you is this, and I by no means is my answer the correct one. There's other people here. Please, anyone else who has a response. The question is, in my daily life, I have lots of ideas. That makes me imaginative. But how do I go from being imaginative to creative, meaning actually acting on my ideas, is really what the question you're raising. You're not alone, Jamal. I think, there are many more ideas than my actions. But the hardest thing for me is, which I've learned now, is if you keep all your ideas in your head, they'll just wander around, and there won't be any prioritization of those ideas. When you actually handwrite a list of ideas down and reflect on them. Don't act on them. I don't act on everything as soon as I see it. I just write it and I wait and I'll think about it and I'll reflect on it. And then 10 ideas become 3, 3 become 2. And then finally I say, okay, this is worth actually spending energy and time on acting on. That's how it works for me. But at the end of the day, if you can't muster the energy, and this is real talk for you, if you can't muster the energy to actually act, you don't believe in your idea enough. That's it. If you can't muster enough time and you keep using time as the example, I don't have time. Well, then whatever you're trying to make time for isn't a priority. Because if it was a priority, you would make it. I go back. I mean, you're an exceptionally good clinician. When's the last time that you have ever been late for your clinics 4 or 5 days in a row? Just show up half a day at the clinic with half the people waiting. Have you ever done that, Jamal?
No.
Okay. How many times have you been involved in a research project where you wanted to do it, but it just hasn't gotten done?
Lots.
Right. There you go. You have your answer. Right. And I'm not doing it negatively. I'm saying you have to say to yourself, okay, what am I passionate about and what is my idea? And work on that. Look at me. I'm the opposite. So I'm looking at myself the same way. There's lots of things that I say I'm going to do and I never do. And I think, you know what? I can't keep telling people I'm going to do this because it's not going to happen. It's not my passion. I've got to move on to areas where they are. And I'm just reflecting, my own storyline. But thank you for doing that, Jamal. And I appreciate you raising that question.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, Soren. Is it Soren? Yeah.
Yeah.
Hi.
Thank you very much. That are fantastic. It's so inspiring.
Hi.
So I think for me, it's a lot about a fear of missing an opportunity, missing out on an opportunity. Can you comment on that?
Okay, so there's many, many learned people here who know about what we call FOMO, right? The fear of missing out. Let me ask you this, Soren. Would you rather be someone who has the following brand? Someone who says, I will say no to 3 things, but when I say yes to something, I will deliver it exceptionally well for you. Or would you like to have the brand of saying, I will say no to nothing. And by the way, I will be late on everything.
You got me.
Right?
But still,
it's hard. It's very hard.
It is, because I think I've been following your career, and I think you are extraordinary, the level you have risen to. But I think in that the path along your career, it's also coming because you've been very good at taking a lot of stuff in. So if you do this too early, I'm just.
Yeah, no, you're right. But also in the last 6-7 years, I'm doing what people think is the opposite, right? Which is you're spending a lot more time doing things that are, they call it fluff, hobbies. Why are you doing your hobbies? You should be doing more research. You should write 10 more papers. And it's not about writing papers. It's the ideas. The problem is you remembered, think of all the papers you've all read in the last year. How many do you actually remember, like truly remember? What are and the ones that are impactful are maybe 1 or 2 in a year. So you ask yourself, research is as operating is. If you do a primary total knee, you learn it. You can do many, 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 many. The great gifted surgeons will sit there and say they will reinvent things, that they're creative because they've thought about it on a bigger level. With research, it's the same thing, right? You just have to rethink. How do you want to spend your time? We all get caught up in the concept that our time is invaluable. Someone else's time is more valuable. Your time is very valuable. And if you're a little bit more careful about how you spend your time, you will have an enormous degree of success. And remember, you define your success, Soren. I'm not defining your success. You define your success. Don't let other people define your success. Now, I'm telling you from, I'm being honest, a 51-year-old who's lived, a big chunk of his academic career, but I still believe I've got a good 10 years in me. In fact, I think my best 10 years are now, and I'm doing less and less and less of anything but the stuff that makes me personally happy and excited. There's an element of privilege associated with that, but just listen to those around you. They're not trying to steer you wrong. I know Parag, I see Martin here. I see anyone else. I mean, there's lots of people who have many more.
Hi, Mo.
Yeah, hi.
Great
Martin.
talk, inspiring, great talk. I think we can resume this in 2 words: passion and also a tenacity. If you're a tenant in your work, that helps a lot.
Yeah.
And passionate, I think it's the best thing you can teach to your son, because I think everything else is just chance. If you teach passion. That's the most important thing. I realize I'm also 50. I realize all that you are telling today after bilateral pulmonary embolism that I had in 2015. So that's not the good way to change. We would have to change before this or something else happens. So I like it very much. Thank you.
No, thank you, Martin. I appreciate your, your idea. I mean, we all use the word passion. And I used to think, well, you have to be passionate about what you do. And I must say, and if I'm being very, very honest, 9 out of 10 people around me in orthopedics, they don't seem to have passion for their jobs. And it's very easy because you start asking them about, hey, so what'd you do this weekend? Rarely, I mean, there aren't that many, rarely it's the person who jumps in and says, oh, I was involved in this great 12-hour case and it was the best thing in my life and blah, 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 blah. Mostly they talk about something else. And I say, oh, have you do that? No, I don't get to do that very much. And then they go back to their life. And I think, well, why aren't you doing that more? Like you light up. You light up when I ask you about something, and that to me is sad. When I look at my own life, it took me a long time. It took me a long time for January 2018 to be staring out and thinking I'm changing. Right? And I've done, so for 5 years I was thinking about it. And in January 2018, something just hit me. I said, that's it, done. I'm not gonna do anything but do the things that I think are important. And it's the issue of time, right? You think it's all wrong. I have my time schedule all wrong. How many of you have done this? Let me raise this to you. Sunny day outside. Now, many of you have every day sunny, so I know where you live. But in Canada, we have many days that are not sunny, okay? But I would stare outside a window and I'd see the sun and I'd say, I'd take a moment and think, I'd love to get out for a walk or I should just do something. And then I'd say, I'll just finish this paper. I would work on it. 7:30, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, I'm done. I've eaten my food. And then at 9 o'clock, starts raining. I say, you know what? Okay, I'll do it tomorrow. And that would happen time after time after time again. Gave that up. So what I do now, I look at the week, I look at the sun, I look at the schedule. I say, it's sunny on Friday. I'm taking the morning off. I'll figure out the rest of my schedule, but that morning is off. I'm going to be outside. Why am I prioritizing the best parts of the day for things that I can do later? I should be out there doing things that give me joy so I can have the energy and fuel to do the other things I want to do. And since I've used that model, been happier, I've been way more productive. I think I'm better for the people around me, generally speaking. And anyways, it's been a personal, minor little tweak in my day. Now, not everyone can do that, but I know many of you can. And it's been a simple little trick for me.
Hi, I had a question.
Yes, please.
So you spoke about the fear of failure.
Yes.
And, since a young age, society always conditions us to celebrate success and demean failure. So what are your thoughts about or advice on dealing with failure in your own life?
Well, in research, you fail all the time, right? You just get used to it. When people say, they feel so nervous that they've had the first paper rejected, I think, boy, oh boy, you better get used to this because you better be ready for this. But the thing is, it depends on the type of failure, right? I think not all failures truly should be celebrated. And this is my own perception. So for example, I'm going to use personal examples. I'm not going to name the people, but you try to say, I'm going to try to do something above my skill level, or I'm going to stretch myself. I'm going to use the example of climbing something. So you say, I didn't get to the top of the mountain, but I got halfway. Well, that's a success. That's not a failure. You failed to get to the top, but you got to the journey, right? That's a success. Now, we go to another situation where you take on 40 different things and you do nothing, right? So in theory, you failed at everything. We're not going to say, good for you, you took on 40 different things and you did nothing. We should celebrate that, right? It's a different sort of psychology. And I don't think everything we fail at should be thought of positively. Otherwise, you'll never take the risk. But, I think you just have to look at challenging yourself in areas where I think you will actually have, an opportunity to succeed. And think of yourself, even if I didn't get to the end, what would be the positives of having tried this? right? That's the entrepreneurial mindset. I know Parag, I don't know if others have a thought on this, but sometimes not even trying is probably the biggest failure, right? In cases. But if you overcommit and say, I'm going to do all these things, don't think of that as being a failure that's going to be celebrated, right? You have to have enough insight to know, which failures are going to be celebrated versus which aren't. But go ahead, Parag. I know you had something to say here.
So on the same track, just changing gears a bit, Mohit, what I want to say is that, behind every successful story, there are 20, 25 unsuccessful stories.
Yeah.
So my question is that, what is your take on luck? What is your take on destiny?
Yeah.
What do you feel about such things? It's a little different. I'm just changing the game.
Yeah.
I just want to understand your mindset on luck, destiny, and things like that.
For me, it came back, it was not long, maybe about 8 years ago that the book came out, a book called Outliers. Some of you may have heard about it. And I was struck by that statement, where in the book it says, that, superstars don't arise out of anywhere, right? They're not some sort of geniuses. They're actually the beneficiaries of many people who open doors and many lucky breaks. All of us to be where we are, to be here right now, are probably through a series of 1 million acts of kindness. And I reflect on that. There are many people I actually know who open doors for me, and I'm grateful to them. And there's many who did it without my even knowledge. You can call it destiny, Parag, or whatever it may be, but there are many people behind the scenes that I'll never know that did things for me behind my back that opened doors. The only thing I would say in my own defense in life has been that I did walk through many doors. So, sometimes if you get so focused on a goal and you're looking way out there, and as you're walking toward that goal, you have blinders to every other potential opportunity that's right beside you. And because I was malleable enough, and I think the argument here is, you did take on lots of different opportunities. It did allow lots of doors. Tons of doors opened and many doors closed. But because sometimes the one door that, there's so many times where I think, I cannot believe that if I hadn't done that, or I hadn't been rejected from that this would have happened. It started off with me first. The place I wanted to do my orthopedic training is not where I got accepted, friends. I ended up somewhere else. And because it got somewhere else, it changed my life. And so I'm actually grateful that a group of people didn't think I was sufficiently skilled or the right person for their program, because they put me on track to be what led me to my opportunities to do things I really love to do. So who knows, right? I look back with a sense of wonder and awe about all this. But all I can say is, whatever we're doing, wherever we're going through now, you may look at it if you're early in your career thinking, these guys are just talking stuff and it's nice. They say all these things, they put all these quotes up and good for them. I've lived it all. Like, there's not one thing there that I haven't lived. There's not one single thing in there that I'm not actually doing for myself and telling you personally, it's working for me. So, I'm not on a personal level. I have no desire, and I'm being truthful, to inspire you. My desire is to just awaken in you a sense that if I can do it, and I'm not an extraordinary human being, you can all do it. And that was it.
Yeah, you're modest, but I agree with your views.
Friends, I apologize. I could talk for hours with you about this, but we have to close this session down as we begin yet another one of our world tour. And you remember, part of the whole creativity mindset is to explore ideas with different people and different places. So I'm going to be going now virtually to the Netherlands and learning from other groups there as well. But I can't thank you all enough for doing this. I hope this model has been helpful to you, this sort of relatively smaller group discussions. I know many of you haven't participated like in terms of video, but I'm hoping you're listening and you're at least having some of this discussion hopefully sink in and reflect. And someday, when you sit down and write your vision statement, you'll look back and say, that was the right thing to do. Thank you all. Thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you.
Take care.
Very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mohit. Much appreciated.
Thanks, Parag. All right. Cheers, everyone.
Mohit, wonderful talk. Bye-bye.
Cheers,
Take
everyone.
care.
Cheers, cheers, cheers.
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 Thank you.
Cheers, guys.